Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Le'ira online smicha. The Yom Tov of Chag shovuos is approaching, and it's interesting to note that in Shulchan Aruch we have a discussion whether the concept of Shloshim Yom Lifnei Chag applies in shovuos too. We obviously know that on Pesach there's a lot of preparation, on Sukkot there's a lot of preparation. What preparation do you need for shovuos? L'cha'ira, cheesecake. You'll get a recipe, you make a cheesecake. What great halachas. Obviously, you have to prepare for Matan Torah, and Dafka Shavuos is the one that you count down to. I can't wait for Shavuos to happen. And whereas Pesach and Sukkot, we don't have it. But yet there are many interesting halachas and special minhagim that are special for Shavuos, and there are some things you have to be very careful and learn about. So I'm going to try to concentrate on one minig. In Shulchan Aruch and Orach Chaim Siman Tov Tzadik Dalid, it speaks about two different types of things that you bring to your house and to shul on Shavuos. It's two separate halacha. One halacha is you bring asavim, grass, into your house, and the Alter Rebbe says that zecher lesimchas matan Torah. And there's many explanations for that. One explanation is the mountain became, the Har Sinai became full of grass, beautiful. So to remember that Zeichel Simchas Matan Torah, you bring grass into your house, asavim. Then there is another separate din. You bring trees into your house and into shul. That's for a separate reason. The trees reason is so you should daven for the trees, because the Rosh Hashanah for the Ilanos, to see if they get blessed, get judged if they get blessed to produce new fruit, is on Shavuos. And therefore, to remember to pray for them, they want us to pray for them, you bring trees into your home and trees into your shul. Yet, it's mekubal amongst Klal Yisrael that everybody's buying flowers, beautiful flowers. Flowers is not mentioned in Shulchan Aruch, but it's a different custom. There are many reasons why flowers, roses are brought. It actually says that the Medrash tells us, and the Gemara tells us, that when the Eibishter said the Aseres HaDibros, for every letter that came out of Hashem's mouth, Kvayochel, a new blast of fresh air, a smelling scent, beautiful smelling scent came out. So to commemorate that, we not only bring grass and stuff like that, and trees for the reasons mentioned before, we do something to commemorate the smell, the pleasant smell that there was. Some insist, some Svarim say perhaps specifically roses, because roses also symbolize, besides the smell, in Shir Hashirim, Shlomo HaMelech compares the Yidden to roses amongst thorn bushes. So, and that's when we were chosen in Matan Torah, we plucked out the rose from the thorn bush. So there's a special custom that many do to bring the roses into your house for something smelling beautifully, besides the grass and the trees, to commemorate this detail too. Now, the very fact that there's a rhyme and reason for why we bring this changes a whole outlook of a halacha. Because the halacha will, especially sometimes, Erev Yom Tov falls out to be on Shabbos, and Muktzah is a question that's applicable on Shabbos and also applicable in Yom Tov. So the question is, am I allowed to move the bouquet of roses you have that's on the table, put it somewhere, move it around on Shabbos? Is it muktzah? Because you have it there for a purpose, because you're doing it to use to enhance the Yom Tov, most of the poskim say that roses, of course, is a different. If it's not completely open, then it might grow. The watering it might cause it to open more. That's a different shaila. But if it's a shaila of muktzah, most of the poskim say it doesn't apply, because in your mind, this was part of the Simchas Yom Tov that you want to put from place to place, so it wasn't set aside not to touch on Yom Tov. Two or three more interesting small nekudas about the roses. Many, I've seen in the Svarim, they ask, okay, it's a special day, Erev Yom Tov, and everywhere you go, in every Hasidic street corner, you'll see people selling roses, people selling flowers, and sometimes due to the demand, they're going to hike up the price. So what happens if a person's parnasa is not going that good? Could he use meiser money to buy the flowers or the trees or the whatever he brings to fulfill this obligation? So to use the word obligation, that's not the right word, even though it's a nice minig and it has a lot of rhyme and reason, but it's definitely not an obligation that we could say you could use meiser money for. Meiser money you could only use for a mitzvah that you have to get done, and it's a chayv. But something that's not a chayv, it's just a custom, it's a nice thing, you definitely cannot use meiser money. However, some suggest if there is an institution, let's say there is a shul, a yeshiva that's selling roses, and instead of selling it $20 a dozen, is selling it for $30 a dozen, then the additional price that yeshiva, that the meiser is benefiting, that additional price you could take out of meiser money. One shaila. Another shaila is, how about a person there are some people don't like throwing money to the garbage, and they feel that buying roses or things like that comes and goes, it's a waste of money. So they want to buy plastic ones, the ones that look very, very nice, so it enhances the look of the meal, the yontif, but it's not real stuff. Is there an Indian dafka to have real roses or real flowers? So based on what we said before, that the flowers are representing a smell, I've not yet met a plastic rose that smells good. So therefore, there's no way around that. If you want to fulfill this custom, you have to buy a lebedika, good smelling, good looking rose. Another halacha, which just the simple roses, the simple flowers you have to think about. And that is, and the Shulchan Aruch talks about it, you have to make a bracha, bari mina b'samim. We do this every Motzei Shabbos when you smell something, a beautiful smell. It's a hana that you have to thank God for. So what happens if you smell the roses? So there are actually, in Shulchan Aruch, it gets broken down into two categories. There are a lot of things that are made for smell, and there are a lot of things that are not made for smell, but they smell good. There are a lot of beautiful smelling fruit, but you eat them, you don't smell them. So the items that are made for smell definitely have a bracha when you smell it, because that's what it's made for, and that's the pleasure that you're using it for. But an item that's made to eat, or an item that's made for other usage, for niceness or whatever, is a question. You only make the bracha when you intend to smell it, but if a smell comes to you, you don't necessarily have to make a bracha. So the question is, you walk into a house that has roses on Yontif, on Shabbos, and the smell, and you like the smell, but you didn't pick it up the smell. Do you have to make the bracha? Because the roses are not necessarily made lahariach. So because of the reason we mentioned before, that we intentionally bring in roses, because to commemorate the smell, the pleasant aroma that there was during Matan Torah, that gives a new angle to the halacha, that therefore when you walk into to your house or shul and it smells good, even though you don't walk over to smell, you will have to make a bracha. Now, is it barei atzei b'samim or barei minei b'samim? That's a discussion for itself. Good yontif.